Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So I'm making this video to bring to light something that's actually quite concerning in regards to our latest Halal Slaughterhouse investigation that we conducted in Old Arley after a tip-off from Carolyn McKay. The reason I'm making this video is to create a bit of awareness about the topic of enforcement agencies appearing like they are not going to act based on statements they make. Now, just from the outset, I'll just tell you straight up right now, I'm not an animal welfare activist, I'm an animal rights activist. I don't believe we should be killing sentient beings at all or exploiting them for our own needs at all. So let's just get that out the way. I also believe that people should live a vegan lifestyle where they do not fund industries that exploit, violate the right to life of, or treat animals in a horrible way. It's all encompassing, right? That's my belief. So just so you get my bias out the way. Putting that aside for the moment, right, let's just focus on the animal welfare laws in this country. Whether you eat meat or you're a vegan or a full-fledged animal rights activist, the animal welfare laws, now whether I agree with them or not, because I believe welfare should not include shooting animals in the head, however humanely, because that doesn't really mean welfare to me, like it wouldn't mean human welfare, but let's just analyze the laws. Now, one of the laws is you cannot cause unnecessary suffering. Your actions or failure to act should not cause unnecessary suffering. And the unnecessary element of the suffering is interesting too. So what we have here is a very thorough investigation of a halal slaughterhouse, a non-stun halal slaughterhouse based on a tip-off from Carolyn McKay. And we submitted this to the media first, okay, because I know for a fact that if you don't get public accountability, sometimes these things can be swept under the rug, and we've seen it multiple times. And I believe there is data on this. I'll put it up on the screen now, and it's a very low percentage of animal welfare breaches are actually prosecuted. You can see why in my interviews I'm talking about they don't enforce. The laws are there, they don't enforce them. Whether or not this is halal or not, or if it's kosher or if it's a British slaughterhouse, does not matter to me, okay? If you are torturing animals, I will expose you and I will fight my hardest to have there be accountability, right? So I don't care, I don't discriminate when it comes to animal cruelty, abuse, or violating the rights of animals. The Independent submitted the footage to the FSA to get their response. So they are the Food Standards Agency. They do other things amongst just policing slaughterhouses, and they are responsible for the CCTV cameras that are running, and it's essentially their job to enforce the laws inside slaughterhouses, okay? So that's who the FSA are. When the Independent served our footage to the FSA, they said to the Independent, "We're taking this issue very seriously. We have already taken immediate action to suspend several individuals from handling live animals and have increased on-site presence during all slaughter operations while we look into these allegations further." Seems to me they received the footage and then they suspended people and then they increased an on-site presence. That's how that reads. And then it says, "We await any further footage, and meanwhile, we continue to look into these allegations." Okay, we will not hesitate to take more action as we have a zero tolerance approach to animal welfare breaches. That's quite interesting, actually. I want you to, that was their initial response, okay? They gave a similar response to me. We reached out to the FSA via my email, and we asked the FSA if they would like our footage, like in entirety, all 10 days of it. We went to the FSA communications team. They said, "Please provide any further footage to us and we'll give it to the team who is continuing to look into these allegations further." Okay, so this must be in a separate team. They asked us to email the footage. I mean, we did a 10-day investigation. There's hundreds of gigabytes here. Now we got back to them saying it's not quite as simple as that, as we have over 1 terabyte of footage for this investigation. Okay, so that's the 5th of March. All right, so now we're the 20th of March. Very interesting. I'll just keep these timelines. We haven't heard back from them. We haven't heard back from the FSA, who are supposed to be conducting the investigations into this, right? Now let's just rewind a bit. On the day of the investigation release, Carolyn got in touch with me and told me that Carolyn had engaged with a MP named Jodie Gosling, who was currently on a conference call with the CEO of the FSA. It's hearsay, that's just what Carolyn is telling me. I don't know if it was the CEO of the FSA. But then Carolyn got back to me saying, "The FSA has refused to acknowledge your videos as evidence as they are over 90 days old. Devastated." So this was on the day we released the investigation. And then I got another email from Carolyn saying the FSA has accused you of holding the footage back until Ramadan. It's very, very peculiar. Like, why? Well, one, I didn't hold back the footage till Ramadan. It coincidentally fell on Ramadan, the release, because we had to wait for reports, the media, you know, the independent article, and we released it all in unison. This was a very, very big project. I mean, it took us a lot of time. It was very detailed, and we had 2 versions, and you know, it just so happened that it fell on Ramadan. Call it divine intervention. Why would the FSA even say that? I guess what maybe we're getting at here, just speculating, is that because it's over 90 days old, they can't acknowledge it, and it's my fault because I held the footage back until Ramadan. If I did, it wouldn't matter. You see crimes, you're supposed to prosecute them. It wouldn't matter, but I didn't. It's kind of a bit, I don't know, it's a bit, should they be making claims about what my intentions were here? I don't know. Accusing me of that without any evidence, you know, pretty strong claim. We didn't at all. Now I'll talk a little bit about their 90-day threshold for acknowledging crimes on footage in a sec. Essentially, I asked Carolyn, please send me the information of the person who is making these accusations. She said that the MP relayed them to her. She's taken the information from the FSA as fact, and she's very upset about it. The MP wanted to do something about it. I think the MP Jodie Gosling spoke in the House of Commons about it. And I said, what department do they work in at the FSA, etc.? And she said it was the CEO, she thinks. Apparently this woman here, so Katie Patifa. I just said to Carolyn, it sounds very questionable. There's no legal basis for her claim that footage over 90 days cannot be acted upon. I then said, can you ask the MP to get what the FSA said in writing? Write it down. This was the exact words of a representative from the FSA. So now it's a representative. This comes from the office of Jodie Gosling. The FSA has said, the food business operator is required to have CCTV in all live animal areas and to retain this for 90 days. But due to the period of time since the COVID footage, this is a very key point. But due to the period of time since the covert footage was captured, this is no longer available. So we were unable to review this. Unfortunately, the footage captured covertly is not admissible in legal proceedings and therefore is unable to support a prosecution. What they're saying in the first part of this, slaughterhouses are to retain their CCTV footage for 90 days and they can delete it. True, that's true. But what they're saying later, that they need to review their footage with my covert footage in order to prosecute, is not true at all. I don't see a legal basis for what they're saying. But this is coming from the FSA. This is the Food Standards Agency, the authority in slaughterhouses. Like, this is the government body. And they're telling an MP that because it's over 90 days, they cannot, like, prosecute. So of course, like, the MP's gonna think, oh my God, like, well, I better just maybe let this go. I don't know. But the MP wasn't very happy about this. I know that. Based on Carolyn's report. So essentially, I just reply back to Carolyn's been fantastic during all this. Essentially, she tipped me off. She's been very, very proactive in this, and so thank you, Carolyn. But Carolyn's getting a little taste of what we have to deal with when we release investigations, right? Now, I said highly questionable. I wouldn't be too quick to take this claim from the FSA at face value, because under the Animal Welfare Act 2006, if you scroll down to section 31, it says footage is admissible up to 3 years from the date of offending. There's a 90-day retention limit for abattoirs CCTV, but I've never, ever heard the claim that covertly filmed footage is inadmissible after 90 days in court. I mean, there might be reasons they can't admit footage. Maybe they can't confirm the date. They can't confirm where the footage was filmed, things like that. But we've got all that. We've got proof of date, proof of location, almost forensic quality proof of date and location. I mean, there's really no way out there. So it's very, very troubling. Now, but they did put their response in writing to the MP. Now, I've no reason to believe this is fabricated, and it is very, very concerning that the FSA have said this, because it contradicts the wording of the Animal Welfare Act 2006, right? And I know for a fact that they can prosecute based on covert footage alone, because many prosecutions have been conducted on covert footage alone. I would be very surprised if there was some kind of loophole for that. I have never heard of it. So maybe that's a question to put to the FSA, why did you say this? A further contradiction of the FSA's claim that they cannot prosecute because the footage is over 90 days old is the fact that the police contacted me, the Rural Crime Unit, and asked me for the footage and asked me if I'll make a witness statement. And I said, you can have the footage, of course. I will assist you in any way that you need. Subsequent to this, the Rural Crime Unit, Warwickshire Police, they made a statement on March 13th. We are aware of the allegations raised in a recent media article regarding an abattoir in Warwickshire, We take such claims very seriously and we will investigate the matter further. Following our visit on Monday, 3rd of March, we're working with partners including the Home Office and the Food Standards Agency to take appropriate action regarding the issues identified. Since our visit and in light of the footage shared by the Independent, which we believe was filmed in July 2024, we can confirm that we have recorded a suspected offence of unnecessary suffering to a protected animal under animal welfare legislation. So the Rural Crime Unit, Warwickshire Police, took a different view to the FSA, even though in their statement they're saying they're working with the FSA. But I believe this has come from the police. Different to the FSA saying we can't use the footage, isn't it? So this was March 13th, the police said this, and on March 5th, they told an MP that the footage we collected was inadmissible. An interesting part of that, they say they need to cross-check my footage with their footage, which is now deleted. We captured angles that their CCTV cameras weren't even covering, so there would be no way for them to cross-check the angles that we got. And either way, why are there blind spots all over the slaughterhouse, which is very concerning too. And if they were recording for 90 days what we saw, why wasn't something done sooner? They have an FSA officer on site, right? And 50% of the time we film, so we filmed for 10 days, five days of that 10 days, there was an FSA officer on site. Were they just watching? We filmed them at least once, watching an animal flailing about, still conscious after having their throat cut, after being bolt gunned, still flailing. Very extremely likely sign this animal is conscious, okay, experiencing pain and suffering. Right in front of the FSA officer, they appeared to tick some boxes and leave, okay? Why didn't they go out around the other side, do an eye check themselves, rush to administer emergency stunning procedures because this animal was clearly suffering unnecessarily? And the legislation says your acts or failure to act which causes unnecessary suffering is against the law. So it might not necessarily be your actions that cause the unnecessary suffering, but your failure to act. At no point did we see their FSA officer on the kill floor. The reason that's important is because animals were still flailing about, likely conscious, when they were being hung and dismembered, our report showed. So why was there no FSA officer in there? What were they doing? Just keeping their boots clean in this lairage area where the conveyor system is. Another important thing to raise is that the V-type conveyor system, our report noted that this is an illegal kind of restraint because their heads are flying back, opening up the gash. They're flailing about in pain and running away. This is causing the animals extreme amounts of fear and distress. Killing is always wrong for me, but this is illegal in this country. Okay, this is a different topic. Just asking the question, wouldn't the FSA have had to clear that restrainer? They're the body that are supposed to enforce this owner. Now, the owner was the animal welfare officer. How can the owner that's making the money also be the animal welfare officer? What a conflict of interests. He's making money and he's in charge of the animal's welfare. Those two things contradict. You can't have money-making enterprises and look after welfare of animals. Money's gonna outweigh the welfare at some point, and we saw that at this place. I'm just asking questions here about why the FSA reported that to. Was it an incompetent spokesperson from the FSA? Was it the CEO of the FSA trying to, I don't know, avoid prosecution? I don't know. I don't actually know, but it's just strange that they would make a statement that contradicts for what I know is the law. Covert footage can be used. A further contradiction of the FSA, which appears to be a contradiction to me, is that when the ITV later on did their piece, around the 14th or something like this, the FSA gave comment to the ITV News, and it said, we initially received some of the covert footage on Thursday, 13th February 2025. Although we'd been told this filming took place from July and August 2024. We had already identified and appropriately enforced animal welfare failures at this establishment prior to being sent the covert footage. They never actually said that to the Independent. They never said that to me when we asked them to, gave them a right to reply and posted their comment inside of the investigative video that we released. And the Independent never published that comment there because they never gave that comment to the Independent. Otherwise, I'm sure that the Independent would have included that because that's very important information. And why is that only coming to light now? This is a very different story. First, it was we suspended individuals after receiving the footage and have increased on-site presence on the day that they received the footage and gave the comment to the Independent. And then later on, they're saying they already enforced welfare failures at the establishment prior to being sent the covert footage, saying, don't worry about that stuff the footage showed. We'd already cleaned that up. We'd already done our job properly. You know, I forgive my pessimism here, but it's cynicism. But I find that very hard to believe that for I think almost a year, don't quote me on that, almost a year this place was operating before we did our investigation in July 2024. The FSA were there. In my opinion, they appeared to not take the appropriate action to prevent illegal behavior taking place at that facility and extreme amounts of suffering, okay? Because if they're there for a year, how did they allow that conveyor to be operating in that way? Why wasn't the FSA officer more proactive on the kill floor, considering it's a non-stun slaughterhouse and the animals are more likely to be conscious? Why wasn't more done to prevent these horrific things happening from these workers beating the animals, and why wasn't more done? Now they're saying they improperly they've enforced animal welfare failures at this establishment. Now, where is the evidence of that? That should be like a matter of public interest, that information, what they actually did to enforce animal welfare failures at this establishment, because I actually don't believe it at this point. And they've only just raised it when the ITV decided to do a TV piece, because it's actually kicking off. It's kicking off. And I'll just speculate for a second, because my opinion is that because the FSA officer was in there witnessing what appeared to be some illegal stuff taking place, like especially with the animals still conscious and that right in front of her, and that the restrainer's likely illegal and things like that. The CCTV wasn't covering a lot of this horrible stuff, and it was all happening while their cameras were rolling. It could be a little bit of saving face a bit here or something. Or maybe when this does go to trial, maybe the FSA might have, maybe a lot of questions might be put to the FSA, like how can you have let this take place? Because a lot of the public are very outraged about this. Vegan animal rights activist or not, okay, or not. Muslim, meat eater, vegan, everyone is, some are outraged for, I wouldn't say they're outraged for like the right reasons. I would say they're outraged for, other reasons which I don't agree with. But I think like most good faith people are outraged because, and including Muslims in this, because Muslims don't appreciate what's taken place here and that they've been lied to either. Most people are outraged because of the horrific suffering and the illegality that's taken place here, whilst the owner has constantly gaslit everyone into saying that everything is humane and fine and don't worry, I'm really good at this and I've been doing it since I was a kid. Where are the public records of their improvements that they've taken place? There should be public record of that. I would like to know. Let me just talk about the 90-day deletion of footage, right? So every slaughterhouse that the FSA operates in has CCTV generally to look after the animals. I think it's a legal requirement, and a legal requirement too is that they retain the footage for 90 days and then they can delete it. Okay, we've learned that. So let's just say we put the cameras in. We put the cameras in July 2024. We removed them early August, so about 10 days. At the point they received the footage, okay, in February, when they received it from the Independent to make comment, while the Independent was creating their article, they should have gone in and seized whatever 90-day period the slaughterhouse still had on file, because the slaughterhouse wouldn't have deleted it before the FSA reached out to them. So basically, when I started filming, it was in somewhere within this 90-day period. So maybe I started filming in July 2024 and they have a month before that and 2 months after that, and that would be the 90-day period, and we're 10 days in there. Okay, and then they've deleted that, and then there's another 90-day period from there. Okay, and then up until February, there's another 90-day period here. So there might have been 8 weeks worth of footage that the FSA should have taken, seized the footage. Okay, so there might have been 8 weeks, 6 weeks, there could have been 12 weeks, there could have been whatever that was left that the footage that the slaughterhouse hadn't yet deleted, taken that, and all of that illegal behavior, okay, animals still conscious, escaping the restrainer, should all be on that footage. So have the FSA seized that footage, because they haven't made public comment about that yet, okay? And that would be something that I would be very interested to know, if they've got that footage, if they seized it, and if they are using it in an investigation, because that would be additional footage and newer footage, because what we filmed in a 10-day period was taking place all the time there. Now, we have hundreds of, I think about 100 hours of footage, a terabyte. Okay, what we released was a very small amount. What Jenny Mace saw was 1 hour, 46 minute sample. And if you look at our logs, I think there's over 40, 50 pages of logging of incidences. So you can see how much more illegal behavior was taking place, and that at any point in time, if the FSA actually looked at that footage for long enough, they would have seen it. They would have seen it. So why wasn't nothing done? Were they reviewing the footage? And if you honestly, once this investigation, once this prosecution is done, I should just release all of this footage as a matter of public interest, so you can see the amount of horror that was taking place at this slaughterhouse. Anyone in their right mind could review it and see, especially an enforcement agency and governing body like the FSA. I want to say this, okay? We have other offences filmed on camera with other enforcement bodies not taking action and telling us they're not going to take action for reasons that I don't actually understand and that don't have a real legal basis. One of these agencies is Trading Standards. In relationship to footage we filmed of a RSPCA assured dairy farmer smashing cows in the spine with a metal rake on an RSPCA assured farm. Shocking footage, right? He was stabbing them also with a sharp implement, swearing at him. I don't know if you remember this. We released it not too long ago. And they won't take action on this. I'll read out her exact reason for it. And this is only one of many, okay? We've started to actually, we don't have enough resources to hold these people consistently accountable all the time but we would like to hold them accountable. But I'm just gonna give you another example of what I believe is completely unjustifiable reasons to not prosecute a man who's clearly caused unnecessary suffering to a protected animal. Whether their protections are good enough, different story, but they're at least protected from being hit in the spine with a rake. Now, she told me, and I'm not mentioning their name just now, but just know that this is a senior trading standards officer of the West Sussex County Council, and they're in the same building as RSPCA Assured, who happen to assure the same farm, which is in the same county, in the RSPCA building, which I protest in, and they've said, our service was aware of the video footage that was circulating last year, and I, along with my colleague, carried out a visit with the Animal Plant Health Agency, APHA, to the farm in question. In order for us to pursue any offences, we have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that an act of his or failure to act causes an animal to suffer. To help us do this, we require a statement from a vet. Fine, yes, of course, expert statements are necessary in prosecutions. But this statement from the vet needs to confirm that injury or suffering was caused to the animal in question. It is normal practice, therefore, that the vet would have to see the animal and carry out an examination of the animal to see if any injury was caused at the time of the incident. That part I've never heard of. If someone smashes an animal with a rake in the spine, you don't need to see the animal to know that that's caused them suffering. Any expert will be able to say, yeah, that there, you literally hitting them with a metal rake in the spine is going to cause the animal suffering. You can see the animal in distress here and you can hear the impact, and you don't need to see the animal. What if the animal was at the slaughterhouse chopped up into a million pieces and then you're not going to act based on footage? That there is a burden of proof that can't be met, generally. Like, what, they're going to go down to the dairy farm with 600 cows and go, which one was it? We need to see if we need to take their temperature. It's like a load of nonsense, never heard of it, very, very peculiar. They said, this service are not looking to take any further action regarding this matter, blah, 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 blah. Then I'll come back and question her. Now, I've got a bunch of questions for her, but I will do this in another video because this video is getting very long. But I will read out her justifications for not pursuing this prosecution of a very high profile case that was all over the media, and they've chosen not to prosecute. Very, very, very peculiar and very strange, and raises very, very important questions about the efficacy of these enforcement agencies and whether they're actually enforcing the laws, which comes back to the FSA statement saying that they can't prosecute with footage over 90 days, which contradicts the 3-year limit of the law. I do think that there will be many more violations of the Animal Welfare Act 2006 and the WATOC guidelines, the Welfare at the Time of Killing 2015, in the footage that we are submitting. That's my suspicion, because there's so much more footage. It just seems to me very peculiar that the FSA were mentioning me holding back footage till Ramadan. It's got nothing to do with it. Even if I did, wouldn't matter. I'm advocating to Muslims, but I didn't. Just so happened, and I would be very honest about that too if I was holding back footage till Ramadan. Just so happened it fell on Ramadan. I would like to just raise this, create a little bit of transparency about the FSA giving different stories to different media, to different people, and then ignoring our request to send them footage since March the 5th. No response since March the 5th. And then the police getting in touch with me. Now, is it possible the FSA contacted the police and said, look, get in touch with Joey Carbstrong to get the footage? Maybe, but I don't actually know if I believe that. I've got no reason to believe that because of their contradictory statements and their unwillingness to act and their statement to the MP. Why did they say that? And I believe the police were notified by Jody after she was declined by the FSA based on this email here where it says, however, Jody is liaising with the police to see what options remain available. What options remain available after the FSA dismissed our covertly filmed footage. I honestly am of the belief that, of the opinion rather, that the only reason that these agencies get their ass into gear at times, or most of the time, is because of public pressure, which is why we make sure we are very thorough and we release a very big piece so that the public's outraged and that there's accountability to the industry, okay? Because this is a very big issue and it's a systemic issue, and it's not just about this slaughterhouse, and it's not about two-tier policing because it's a halal slaughterhouse. This stuff happens on farms, in other slaughterhouses. Like I said, only a small percentage of welfare violations or breaches of animal welfare law in this country are prosecuted. What do you think about the FSA's response to this shocking investigation? What do you think? Do you believe them? What do you think about their contradictory statements? I would like to say that I'm very happy to hear about that people will be held accountable. I think the owner should be held accountable. Arguably, you know, he has a high level of accountability based on what he was telling me on the hidden button camera. Slaughterhouse, you're saying there's CCTV, and who monitors them? I do. You monitor them? Yes. So if anything's going wrong, that's on you? Yes. Okay, so you're taking on a lot of responsibility there for your workers and for your... So you're the owner, you're the animal welfare officer, but we can get into that in another video too. But this video here was talking about the peculiar reason that FSA at first weren't going to do anything about this, and now all of a sudden the police are involved and something is getting done about this. I thought the footage was unusable. Remember, this is just one of many investigations we've conducted. If you go to my Uncovered series, you'll see a lot more. Please watch Pignorant. It's on justwatch.com worldwide. You can also find it on Amazon Prime. You can also find it on Tubi as well for multiple users, but justwatch.com is worldwide, so everyone can watch it there. You'll see non-stun slaughter happening to pigs on a massive scale in the UK, and wide-scale torture happening to pigs in factory farms and free-range farms in the UK. So all the British guys out there saying, oh man, halal's so much more cruel. Well, non-stun halal slaughter is cruel, so is non-stun pig slaughter in CO2 gas chambers, and so is factory farming in the UK, and so is all farming. But just remember that if you're saying a ban halal slaughter, you're actually saying ban all slaughter, because the majority of halal is actually the animals are stunned. But I don't agree with stunning and chopping animals' heads off. I'm an animal rights activist. I believe everyone should be vegan, and that's the only way you can prevent horrible things from happening to animals. And animals should have fundamental rights protecting them from human exploitation, because we don't need to eat animals. We don't need to. It's not a requirement. You don't need it for your health. You don't need it for survival. You don't need it at all. There's no mandate in Islam that says you must eat animals. I think if animals had fundamental rights protecting them from human exploitation, we all ate a plant-based diet, we didn't participate in animal exploitation, we wouldn't have these mass systemic issues of horrible cruelty and problems with prosecuting animal welfare violations, and we wouldn't have any of this. We wouldn't have any of this torture and this suffering and this blood worldwide. So my plea to you is, whether Muslim or not, British, whatever your faith or nationality or race, religion, please live vegan. It's consistent with your compassion. You know, please give the animals mercy. Don't do this to them anymore. It's not working. The system is flawed. The system is completely broken. And until we learn to respect animals, you know, those who are vulnerable, those who can do nothing for us, how are we ever going to learn to respect each other? Okay? And I've seen it here with this, releasing this investigation. Discrimination, racism. It's nothing to do with someone's religion, okay? This has got nothing to do with that. This has got to do with specific kinds of animal abusers that are systemic across animal agriculture, which is a broken system of animal exploitation, where these egregious issues are happening en masse all the time, okay? It's got nothing to do with whether or not someone is a Muslim, or whether or not they're from Pakistan, or whether or not they're from Africa, or whether or not they're from fucking Britain, okay? And I want all human beings to respect each other. Whether or not you agree, respect each other, and respect non-human animals, okay? Respect the animals as well. And when I say respect, I don't mean treat them humanely before you slice their head off or shoot them in the head and then eat their body, okay? That's not respect. Respect each other, respect animals, live vegan. But bare minimum, if you don't agree with all that, help me pressure the government to enforce the animal welfare laws in this country. Because if they were forced to prosecute every animal welfare violation there was, I think the system would collapse anyway, because honestly, the whole system is criminal. When you look at it, when you actually look at it, you can't have a slaughterhouse without these things taking place. It goes part and parcel with mass slaughter and mass breeding animals. So thank you all. Long video. I think a necessary video though, and the fight continues.